Hello friends, welcome to yet another story session. So, the story we are going to read today is called The 100 White Doves, and it's been written by Phoebe Colum. To just give you a context about the story, a wall separates the inhabitants of Calypso Island. The rich cheetahs live on one side and the poor leopards on the other. The story is about a friendship that develops between Lila Leopard and Charlie Cheetah, two children who are not allowed to be friends. It is an important story, as in today's world there are so many walls separating people, both physical and virtual. 100 White Doves is an essential story about love, friendship, and humanity overcoming geographical borders, and it ends with the wall on Calypso Island being demolished. We hope you enjoy the story 100 White Doves. Lila was a leopard cub. Like all children, she liked to draw and collect shells from the beach, and she loved basking in the shallow waters of the ocean, watching the sun set over Calypso Island, where she lived. Lila was a leopard, but she wished she was a cheetah. The problem was, leopards did not like cheetahs, and cheetahs did not like leopards. That's just how it was. Cheetahs lived on the other side of Calypso Island, behind the big grey wall that was 100 feet tall and 1,000 feet long. Cheetahs were rich and leopards were poor. Cheetahs had enough food to eat, and they lived in tree houses with rope ladders and slides and rooftops with swimming pools. Children cheetah had fun playgrounds with helter-skelter slides made of glass, so it felt like you were floating through the air, and swings that whirled you through waterfalls and over cliff edges, so it felt like you were flying with the birds. There were no playgrounds or tree houses for the leopards. Leopards did not even have enough food to eat. Every morning, Lila would lick her breakfast bowl clean of milk, then climb the great olive tree by the giant grey wall. The olive tree was very old. It was older than her grandfather and her great-grandfather. The knobbly branches twisted and turned like a crooked staircase. From the top, Lila could see over the wall. She would watch the cheetah children having fun. Her chest would hurt, wishing so much that she could join them. Climbing down, Lila picked olives that her and her mother would squeeze into olive oil during the evenings. Leopards were not allowed on the cheetah's side of the wall. Tigers and grown-up cheetahs policed it. They stood tall on 4 legs with sharp teeth and sharp claws, and they would roar fiercely if any leopard tried to pounce over. One morning, Lila was very sad because it was her birthday and her mother was too poor to buy ingredients to bake a cake. No cake, no special breakfast, and no presents because her parents had no money. She snuck away to her olive tree and curled up at the top. Amidst the silence of the dawn, her tears sounded very loud. On the cheetah side of the wall, a flower patch glowed with color. A group of cheetah children played football by it. It made Lila sad because there was no colorful flowers on her side of the wall. One of the cheetahs accidentally kicked his football too far, and the ball landed beneath the branches of Lila's olive tree that curled over the wall. The cheetah galloped to chase it. He heard Lila cry and looked up. Lila's teardrops fell onto his snout. "Why are you crying?" the cheetah asked. Because it's my birthday and I didn't get any cake or presents because my parents don't have any money. That's horrible. Happy birthday, said the cheetah kindly. I will make you a present today at school because we have arts and crafts. Thank you, said Lila. You are a nice cheetah. I didn't know cheetahs were nice. What's your name? My name is Charlie. What's your name? My name is Lila. Meet me here this evening after school, said Charlie, and he galloped off with his football. That evening, Lila climbed her tree and wondered if Charlie would remember to bring her a present. She wondered how he would give it to her, as she was so high up in her olive tree, and they weren't allowed to cross the wall. Charlie came as promised. Catch! He said. A paper aeroplane came gliding through the air, and Layla caught it in her paws. Open it! Charlie called. Lila opened the aeroplane, and inside was a bunch of flowers that Charlie had threaded into a bracelet. The message on the wing of the plane said, Happy birthday, Lila! Love from Charlie. Lila grinned from ear to ear. Thank you, she called back. Charlie saluted her and ran off because the police tigers had started to growl at him. Cheetahs and leopards were not allowed to be friends. Lila wore her new bracelet to her birthday party on the beach. She felt happy and had a lovely time with her friends. They played stuck in the mud and sleeping leopards, where you had to lie very still in the sand, even though the little crabs would crawl over your tummy and their feet felt tickly. Lila was allowed to stay up till midnight as a special birthday treat. Her father arrived home very late. He had missed the party. He said, I travelled all day to pick you some strawberries from the strawberry bush. I'm sorry, I don't have enough money to buy you a cake. But you are my little girl, and I wanted you to have something special on your birthday. Lila gave her father a big cuddle. She had not had strawberries in a year, and they were her favorite fruit. At dawn, Lila went to the beach and hunted out the prettiest shell. She wanted to give Charlie a thank you gift in return for her birthday present. She found a shell that was cone-shaped with swirly golden and white stripes. She filled the cone with water from the ocean and caught a baby starfish. She placed the starfish in the cone and carefully made her way to the olive tree, climbing it with the cone shell wrapped safely in her tail. Hey, Charlie! She yelled, because the cheetah children were playing football again. I've bought you something to say thank you for getting me a present. But it is very precious, so you have to make sure to catch it. Lila dropped the cone shell, and Charlie caught it nicely between his paws. I will call the starfish Lila after you, he said. At twilight, a shimmering, silver glaze settled over the ocean. Lila liked to rest here in the shallows, ducking her tail in and out of the water. Her grandfather lay next to her. He enjoyed telling Lila stories as the gentle evening waves trickled over their speckled fur. Grandad, tell me about the olden days when leopards and cheetahs were friends on the Calypso Island, Lila said. Lila's grandfather lit his pipe and began. In the early days, when I myself was a child, the cat kingdom existed in harmony. Leopards and cheetahs lived happily side by side on the Calypso Island. They shared the sunshine. They walked the same beaches, swam in the same oceans, and climbed the same trees. The children went to school together, and the adults hunted antelope in the abundant fields and fished in the plentiful waters. In the olden days, it didn't matter if you were a cheetah with a spotty fur coat or a leopard with spherical patterns speckled across your back. All cats were friends, and the sky was alive with 100 white doves, and the apple trees and the strawberry bushes flowered with enough food to feed 1,000 cats. "So what went wrong?" Laila asked. The greedy tigers came from the other side of the ocean. The tigers wanted all the antelope. The tigers wanted all the apples and the strawberries. The tigers wanted all the doves. The leopards told the tigers they could not take their harvest and their animals because that would be stealing. But the tigers still wanted the antelope and the apples and the strawberries and the doves, so they asked the cheetahs. The tigers were rich, and they said to the cheetahs, "If you let us have these things, then we will give you gold and silver, and we will protect you." The cheetahs wanted gold and silver, so they said, "Okay." Overnight, the tigers and the cheetahs built a big wall that cut through the heart of Calypso Island. The cheetahs were allowed to stay on the good side of the island with all the antelope parks and the fruitful land. The leopards were hounded into the bad, smaller side of the island, stuck on the barren land. Since that day, the leopards have been poor. Mummy leopards have to swim to the deeper part of the ocean, where the sharks are, to find fish. Daddy leopards have to walk for miles and miles to find antelope to hunt, and children go hungry. Our dens where we live are small, and the cheetahs have all the good mud and sticks, so no rain tumbles through their roof. Our schools are too poor to buy pencils, but their schools have pencils and paint and pastels. "Grandad, what else did the greedy tigers do?" Laila asked. "The tigers caught all the doves and put them in cages to take back home with them. A few tigers stayed to guard the big grey wall with their sharp teeth and sharp claws. They were like the police, and they did not let any leopards climb across the wall to the good side of Calypso Island. We became trapped leopards." Her grandfather bowed his head. "That day was our catastrophe." "Didn't the lions do anything?" Laila asked. Lions are the most powerful cats. They live far away in magnificent palaces, but they keep themselves to themselves and do not care about a little island like Calypso Island. Grandfather sighed. "The problem is, we are all cats, but some cats are big, fat cats who are greedy and forget to be kind." "That makes me sad, Grandad." "Do not be sad. Do not think about what you don't have, but think about what you do have. You don't need money to be happy," Grandad continued. "We still have the beach. We can watch the sun rise every morning. We still have our imagination. We can play dot to dot with the night sky and dream up pictures between the stars. We still have our voices. We can sing beneath the moon and dance in the summer sun. We do not have pencils, but we can take the chalk from the sand and we can draw our thoughts across the land." The next year, Laila turned 8. On her 8th birthday, Childred Charlie already stood waiting for her at the bottom of the olive tree. This year, he bought her a palette of paint and some brushes. He wrapped them in wrapping paper and attached the parcel to his football, which he chucked over the wall towards the olive tree for Laila to catch. Laila loved her present. She had never seen paint before and was amazed by the brightness of all the colors. she had only ever drawn with chalk, and chalk only ever came in crumbly white or grey. This time Lila was not sad when her family could not afford to buy her a present. She felt more grown up now that she was 8. Her father walked all day again to collect strawberries, but because the weather was bad, all the strawberries were mouldy. Lila's father was sad that he had not been able to get his daughter anything special. He decided to climb the wall at sunset to see if he could find some cake or strawberries on the cheetah's side on the wall. He was very brave. The tigers and cheetahs on watch saw Lila's father jump over the wall. They pounced upon him. They cut his flesh with their sharp claws and bit through his fur with their sharp teeth. Then they dragged him back through the heavy grey gates to the leopard's side of the wall. Lila's father was bleeding badly. He limped back to his den, and Lila and her mother spent the night licking his wounds better. That night, the tigers and grown-up cheetahs prowled through the leopard's lands. They were angry, and they wanted to make sure no leopard ever tried to cross the wall again. The leopards were scared of the tigers and the cheetahs, so they stayed inside their dens and blew out their candlelight. The tigers patrolled and growled until the sun rose in the morning. Only then did they return to the cheetah's side of the wall. Lila awoke specially early. She raced up her olive tree, her safe space, and cried and cried. She felt that last night was all her fault. "Why are you crying?" Charlie asked her. She told him all about the tigers and the cheetahs hurting the leopards. "Lila, I want to give you a cuddle, but I can't reach you," Charlie said. Instead, he stood on the ground beneath her, wondering how he could help. Charlie's friends came over to see what was the matter. The other cheetahs saw Lila crying and listened to her story. They said they felt very sorry for her. They said they did not realize that some grown-up cheetah was so mean. They sent paper aeroplane after paper aeroplane laden with bandages and plasters and medicine for Lila's father, because there were no hospitals or chemists on the leopard side of the wall. Eventually, the tigers chased the nice cheetah children away, and Lila crawled sadly down to her tree to look after her father. When she got home, she discovered her new pains were missing, and that made her even more sad. Lila's friends knocked on her den door. "Look, Lila, look! We borrowed your paints, and look what we did." Her friends dragged Lila to the big grey wall, which no longer was grey. It was alive with purple swirls and multicolored flowers, with orange clouds and yellow sunshine. "We will not let the tigers and the cheetahs make us sad. These colors will give us hope and happiness." That night, Lila joined hundreds of leopards at the big colorful wall. They sat under the glittery stars and held candles and prayed that Lila's father would get better. They prayed that the cheetahs and the tigers would attack them no more. Then they heard singing from across the wall, a beautiful melody carried in the calm wind. "Where is the music coming from?" Lila's mother asked. "Lila, climb your olive tree and see." When Lila reached the top of her tree, she saw rows of cheetahs stretching as far as her eye could see. They were holding paws, and their singing became louder and louder as more and more cheetahs came out of nowhere to join the chain. Behind the cheetahs, the tigers were roaring, but the singing was so loud that it drowned the tigers' anger out. Lila spotted Charlie bang in the middle, and Charlie saw Lila. He dashed to her and shouted up to the tree, "My friends and I were so angry about the tigers that they hurt you all. We don't want this wall. This wall is silly. The leopards and the cheetahs should be friends again. We told our families and friends at school, and they told their families and friends. And here we all are. Break down the wall! Break down the wall! All the cheetahs chanted. We all are cats. We all are equal. Layla waved to her leopard's friends. Come up here, she cried. One by one the leopards climbed the olive branches and pounced onto the wall. They stood on top of the wall and held their paws together too, joining the chanting. Break down the wall. We are all cats, spotty or stripy, roaring or purring, big or small. Break down the wall. They stood together, their voices in harmony, leopards and cheetahs. Eventually, the horrible police cheetahs crept away. The tigers lost their voices and stopped roaring. The leopards jumped over the wall in their droves, and the cheetahs clapped and cheered in welcome. Charlie held up his paw, and Layla gave him a high five. The tigers crawled away, back to the land they came from. 100 white doves were set free, and they roamed the skies once more. Charlie took Layla on the glass helter-skelter, and they swung through the waterfalls. He gave Layla the cuddle he had wanted to give her on her 8th birthday. It was the best party that Layla had ever had. And so, this day became known as the day when the little cats broke down the wall. Though the tigers and the evil cheetahs lashed out with ravaging roars and terrifying talons, it was the sheer number of small cats with their small voices who made the impossible possible. It was their bravery and their good hearts which finally brought peace to Calypso Island. The cats destroyed the wall, but one section of the rock remained to remind the leopards and the cheetahs about the time when they were separated and not allowed to be friends. This part of the wall became a mural as a symbol of freedom and kinship. The cats were allowed to draw and paint whatever they wished upon this free space. They built a bridge across it, and this bridge was like a handshake between the leopards and the cheetahs. A handshake of unity, a handshake of equality, and a handshake for the hope of a happy future on Calypso Island. Thank you, dear friends. I hope you enjoyed the story. Do let me know.